Good morning, welcome back to another video, and today is 5 tips for noob gold makers. Now just stick around and enjoy the video. Coming in at number 1 is looted item value. When it comes to noob gold makers, they usually ask the question, what is looted item value? And pretty much it is exactly what it says on the tin. TSM or any type of pricing metric such as the Undermine Journal add-on or just TSM in general gives you a pricing source which actually tells you how much it's actually worth. Now this is the looted item value because you've looted it, you found out what the value is, and thus that's the looted item value. Now the idea behind looted item value is to just give you a baseline point on how much it's actually worth, so it's not actually exactly what it actually is, because prices tend to fluctuate up and down throughout the actual week or month. This is due to either different types of patches or when different types of things such as raid nights actually happen, where the prices of different types of or certain types of items actually fluctuate quite a lot. Now with the looted item value, it just gives you a fixed point in order to actually get a baseline metric off of how much it's actually worth. So when you're actually going to go do a farm and it says 100 or 10,000 gold per hour, it may not actually equal to how much that you're actually going to make from that farm. Now depending on when you're actually going to sell these items, say we farmed up 10,000 gold worth of Zinanthid and we were selling that on the auction house. Say you farm that up on a Friday, and it came up to around about 10,000 gold. Now on the Monday it could very well drop down to around about 8,000 gold, and then on the Wednesday it could fluctuate up to around about 12,000 gold. This is just something to bear in mind when you're actually going to do different types of farms such as transmog, farming materials so to speak, more in particular. And it's just something to understand when you're actually going to sell your different types of items before you actually go do a farm. Looted item value does not actually mean how much gold you're going to be actually pocketing. It is merely just a baseline in order to understand how much it's roughly going to be worth. Hence why gold per hour usually changes quite substantially throughout the coming weeks for different types of patches and different types of events moving forward. Now coming into number 2 is, where do I start? This is a common question I actually get on my Discord quite a lot, and I'm a noob gold maker, how do I get started? Now most noob gold makers or newbie gold makers tend to ask the question that they want to get into high-end selling, so making hundreds of thousands of gold instantly. The baseline thing is, if you don't understand your market and you don't know understand how all the different types of things work, you're probably not going to be making 100,000 gold on a raid night, just so you know. The actual matter of fact is you have to actually understand what you're actually doing before you actually go ahead and do this. When it comes to like the Silas proc and all of that stuff, or selling stuff with alchemy on the auction house, this tends to be a bit mind-boggling for gold makers who are just new to actually gold making in general. And personally, I would say start off with something the bare bones basic. Go and do a gathering farm is my usual suggestion. If you're just new to gold making and you just want to make a bit of gold or get your token for the month, then I would suggest just going ahead and doing gathering professions, as it won't take you that much long to actually get enough for your token. When it comes to using your token, you can obviously use things like worth it, which tells you the gold per hour just in general on how much it's actually going to be worth. Obviously at the moment for dredge leather it's worth 20,000 gold for the hour, so if you want to get a decent amount of gold from that, you can go ahead and do that. Now that being the case, if you are wanting to step up from farming, say you've been doing farming professions, like say you've done herbalism like crazy and you're now sick of it. Now, if you don't want to do gathering professions, you can always get into basic crafts if you really wanted to, or you can always try and do something else such as raid farming. Now, raid farming is another step up from basic farming because you're not static in one area, you're actually running a raid, and you have a chance of getting different types of transmog items, battle pets, and all of that. But the bottom line is start with a gathering profession and then understand how that market works when you're actually trying to sell those materials. And then once you get the basic principles, then I would step up into crafting professions and Silas procs and who and all the other jargon that comes along with it. Because if you don't understand the fundamentals, you're not going to understand the complex. It's just the basic understanding on how we go about making gold. That's what's actually going to aid you in the future when it comes to gold making. So then you don't make silly little mistakes and then lose 100,000 gold. So understand your market first and then start off with a gathering profession is usually my best bet for that different type of tip. Now coming in at number 3 we have, how do we know if it's a good farm? Now this one is another common question that I get asked on the frequent, and that is, how do I know if a farm is good and which is bad? Usually I go by a metric of, if it's over like around about 15,000 gold, then I usually say that it's pretty damn good. But there are other different key factors to actually take into account, such as the gold per hour, what you're actually going to make, and your sell rate. Now, you could obviously go farm up something that's worth 30,000 gold, but it has a sell rate of 0.01. That is pretty bad, especially for gathering materials. I don't believe any material is 0.01, but we're just taking that as a principle for the sell rate on that. When it comes to sell rate, you're going to want to cross-reference that with your gold per hour, such as if something's worth 20,000 gold, but it's got a 20,000 gold per hour, but it's got a sell rate of 0.5, and then you have a 40,000 gold per hour farm, which has a sell rate of 0.1, then you're going to be wanting to do the 20,000 gold per hour farm as opposed to the 40,000, because that one will sell a hell of a lot faster than the other one, which you will probably be waiting a longer time in order to sell all those materials, as you could do the 20,000 gold one pretty much endlessly for the actual sell rate, as you could probably sell the amount on the auction house and sell a hell of a lot more of that, so you can do more farms of that and sell it faster, so you've got more gold in your bags. But if you're playing the long game, you can obviously do the 0.1, but I would really recommend just doing like the highest sell rate ones with the highest amount of gold per hour. So you would want to cross-reference those two metrics before you actually go ahead and do a farm. Coming in at number 4 is another little tip, and that is oversaturating a market. A very common thing with noob gold makers is oversaturating their market when posting all of their materials in the auction house. Usually when they actually start getting into gold making, they go and farm something for like 3 to 5 hours or just a stupid amount of time, and then they sell all of it at once on the auction house. If this is not current content items, don't do this. Current content items, you can usually get away with posting a few hours worth of materials on the auction house, but when it comes to other different types such as the Cinder Bloom Farm, the Azara's Veil, Whiptail, if you are posting like a few hours worth of farming on that and you're posting quite a lot of them, it's actually going to drive the price down due to the amount of supply you're actually putting forward towards the demand of the market. So therefore, if you've posted too much of something, it's thus going to lose its value and you're going to lose gold for that hour. So what I'd recommend, if you're doing something that is non-current expansion and you're actually trying to sell that on the auction house, then I would bear in mind that you would want to sell it in increments, let alone than selling it all at once. This is a very common practice in order to try and not let the market price actually fall, and then thus you will lose gold overall for your gold per hour, and then you can actually have more gold in the long run as opposed to the short-term gains, because if you sell it in increments, you'll be more inclined to actually make more gold overall for that gold per hour, as opposed to just selling like 2,000 whiptail on the auction house and then driving that price down so much that you're not going to make that much gold back for your hour's worth of investments. So it's just something to bear in mind, that oversaturation can screw with you, especially with crafted gear as well, such as bags. That happens quite frequently, and yeah, it's just something you may want to bear in mind when you're actually doing this. Hence why when I'm using my crafting stuff or crafted stuff, I actually only make a certain amount of these things and then list them on the auction house only at one given time to make sure that I don't drive the price down too much for the profit that I've invested in. Now, coming in at number 5, which is our last one, which is what is sell rate. Now, sell rate is pretty self-explanatory, to be honest, and that is the rate in which a item sells. Of course, when it comes to sell rate, if we take a sell rate of 0.5, that 50% of the time you're actually going to sell that particular item, and if you have a sell rate of 1, you're roughly going to be selling that item in that day if you aren't undercut, of course. This is just a metric to go with when it comes to sell rates in general, to actually determine how fast something's actually going to sell. And usually if something's at a sell rate of either 1 or more, it's pretty damn profitable and it's in a somewhat okay. But if you're going for something that is at a sell rate like transmog, which is at a 0.01, that means it's not going to sell overly fast, and it's going to take quite a while in order for it to actually sell, for you to get your return on your time invested. Now, sell rate is not that hard to really understand. It's basically just a numerical way of saying whether something's going to sell relatively fast or not. I usually go with the understanding that anything above 0.2 is relatively good, and anything under that is going to sell rather infrequently, and thus I should prepare for that moving forward. So if you have something that's at less than 0.2, be prepared that you're not going to sell it overly that fast, and if you have anything over 0.2, then it's probably going to sell pretty fast overall. Now, this does fluctuate somewhat depending on expansions, raid nights and all of that jazz, but it's just something to bear in mind and get your head around just moving forward. Now, that being the case, guys, that is 5 tips for noob gold makers. I hope you liked the video, and other than that, guys, have an awesome rest of the day, and I shall see you tomorrow.